Africa Today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahabi Kajura, but first are the headlines. Kampala flyover construction still on course, says Kajina. IPOD asks Museveni to lift ban on suspension of DGF activities. And Ethiopia urges civilians to join fight against Tigray rebels. And in our sports today, Express H, KM in thriller to reach Sekafa Kagame Cup final. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Africa Today starts with one of our top stories. The Executive Director of Uganda National Roads Authority, Aline Kajina, has said that the construction of the Kampala flyover project is ongoing despite significant challenges faced. Now, Kajina, who toured the project yesterday, assured that the flyover will be completed by December 2022. We have more on this report.
Kampala traffic has significantly grown over the past years, and this has placed an enormous strain on the existing road capacity. The Kampala flyover project is an initiative to alleviate the heavy vehicular and pedestrian gridlock within the city. Speaking to the media during the tour, Kajina said that they experienced delays in importation of project critical equipment as the world shut down due to COVID-19 pandemic. She added that a big number of their staff and contractors' staff contracted the virus, so they had to initially scale down the operations for the safety of personnel. She said she was happy to observe that following the vaccination of most of the project staff, work has resumed and the progress is impressive. The Machinde resident city commissioner, Ronald Mukoza, applauded UNRA for ensuring that work goes on 24 hours a day.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now moving on, the Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue has asked the government to lift the ban on the activities of the Democratic Governance Facility to enable the parties to build their structures. Now, early this year, President Museveni directed the immediate suspension of the activities of the DGF, which was the largest pool of donor funding to the non-governmental organizations in Uganda over what he termed as financing of subversive activities. We have more on this report.
Following the suspension, several non-government organizations across the country halted or downscaled activities. A number of temporarily stopped staff from working, while others introduced a shift model for employees to reduce costs. Speaking to the media at the IPOD Secretariat in Tinda Tuesday, members of the IPOD Council appealed to President Museveni to lift the suspension of DGF, saying its closure could report political party activities. The National Resistance Movement Secretary General, Richard Otongo, said the DGF was funding the development of policy documents including capacity building activities in political parties. Frank Rusa, the IPOD Executive Secretary, said that they have been able to continue with a few administrative activities using other sources of funding, noting that their activities have been greatly affected. Meanwhile, IPOD has formally started the process of inviting the largest opposition party in Parliament, the National Unity Platform, to its fold. The action will also see an invitation extended to the People's Progressive Party as they are new entrants. Katende Chabasiga, reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now moving on, the World Health Organization said at least 4 people have turned up as contacts of a man who died from the Ebola-like Marburg virus in Guinea, as staffers from the UN Health Agency were deployed to the West African country to help authorities prevent an outbreak. Let's take a look at the story.
The World Health Organization spokeswoman Fadela Shaib said the case reported on Monday amounts to the first in West Africa in a region that was swept by a devastating Ebola outbreak between 2014 and 2016 that killed at least 11,325 people. Shaib said authorities were working to trace contacts of the man who had visited a health facility before he died. The Marburg virus belongs to the same family as Ebola, and previously outbreaks have erupted elsewhere across Africa in Angola, Congo, Kenya, South Africa, and Uganda. Marburg symptoms include high fever and muscle pains, and some patients later bleed through body openings like eyes and ears. There is no approved drug or vaccine for Marburg, but rehydration and other supportive care can improve patients' chances of survival.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with more news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, The Right to Know. In our international news today, a rights group in the Democratic Republic of Congo held a demonstration demanding for an explanation behind the death of a 27-year-old Joel Shindani, a Congolese student who was arrested on Sunday, August 1st by the Indian police for alleged possession of an illegal drug but died in mysterious circumstances a day later. We have more.
On Monday, a rights group in the Democratic Republic of Congo called the Congolese National Movement (MNC) led a protest to demand explanations from the Indian authorities over Shindani's death. The group based in Goma, North Kivu, warned that there will be consequences if nothing is done by the Indian authorities to provide justice. Human rights defender Dufuna Tabu condemned the treatment meted out to Shindani. He, however, wants more collaboration between authorities in the DRC and India. He said that the Democratic Republic of Congo and India should work closely together to put an end to these acts that can ruin the collaboration between the two nations. People from African countries often accuse the Indian police of harassment and racism. Many of them claim that they are regularly detained on false charges of drug trafficking and that they are discriminated against on a daily basis.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now moving on, Ethiopia on Tuesday called on all able-bodied Ethiopians of age to join the armed forces as the 9-month conflict in Tigray has spread in recent weeks to 2 neighboring regions in the north of the country. We have more.
According to a statement from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's office, which declared a unilateral ceasefire less than 2 months ago, all able-bodied Ethiopians were called upon to join the defense forces, special forces, and militias and show their patriotism. The conflict in Tigray has seen a dramatic turnaround since late June. The fighting began last November after the Tigray region forces attacked and killed federal soldiers. In late June, Abiy Ahmed declared a ceasefire which was rejected by the rebels. They continued their offensive into the neighboring regions of Amara in the south and Afar in the east. Fighting there has displaced an estimated 3,000 people. The United Nations said on Tuesday it had regained access to 2 camps housing Eritrean refugees in Tigray. It warned that people living there were facing dire conditions.
Moving on, a report by a United Nations scientific panel released on Monday said that world's climate was changing at unprecedented levels, adding that humans are to blame. Now, the report warned of more extreme weather in the coming years. We have more on this report.
The United Nations Scientific Panel report on climate change said humanity will suffer the consequences of rising sea levels and melting Arctic ice before urging drastic cuts to emissions in order to hold the global temperature to under the limits set by the 2015 Paris Agreement. Yuba Sokona, Vice Chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, when asked about what the report means for Africa, said that the entire African continent is highly exposed to climate extremes at a relatively high level of vulnerability, which implies the problems that the continent is experiencing, including poverty, limited infrastructure, conflicts, and urbanization in development. The IPCC provided a 2-page fact sheet on observed and projected climate trends in Africa, but the paucity of data is inescapable in the maps. Of the 9 African sub-regions, the IPCC noted an observed increase in extreme rainfall for just 2 Western and Eastern Southern Africa. The IPCC report makes it crystal clear that human activities were responsible for the 1.1 Celsius of warming above pre-industrial levels observed so far.
Moving on, the Ivorian Coast ex-president Laurent Gbagbo has proposed setting up a new political party according to his Ivorian Popular Front, which is suffering deep internal divisions. Now, during his years in prison, The Hague, a deep rift developed in the FPI, which Gbagbo founded in 1982. We have more.
Speaking at a meeting of FPI leaders, Gbagbo hit out at his former Prime Minister, Pascal Affi N'Guessan, who heads one of the factions, and proposed creating a new instrument of struggle in line with our ideology and ambitions. 68-year-old Affi N'Guessan leads a so-called legal faction, a term that stems from the judicial authority's acknowledgement of his position as party president in 2015. The other side is the so-called GOR faction, from the French words meaning Gbagbo or nothing, backed by grassroots members who fervently support the former president. Gbagbo, who was in power from 2000 to 2011, dramatically returned to Ivorian politics in June after being acquitted at the International Criminal Court in The Hague of crimes against humanity arising from post-election violence in 2010-2011. The faction claimed that Gbagbo, despite his status as a founder member of the party, was not the current president of it.
Well, let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa the Right Now. In our business news today, flights bringing tourists from Russia to Egypt's Red Sea results arrived on Monday for the first time since the October 2015 jihadist bombing of a Russian airliner, according to officials. Now, Moscow buried direct flights to Egypt after the bombing of the passenger plane shortly after it took off from the popular resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, killing all 224 people on board. We have more.
Monday morning's Egypt air flight from the Russian capital brought 300 tourists to the resort town of Haggadah, according to an Egyptian civil aviation official. A second flight later landed in Sharm el-Sheikh, where Russia's ambassador to Egypt and the provincial governor welcomed the passengers, according to an airport source. Egypt Air's CEO Amri Ablenain said the national carrier would be operating a total of 7 flights a week between Moscow and Haggadah and Sharm el-Sheikh. Egypt reopened to foreign tourists in July last year after having closed its borders in March to stem the flow of coronavirus infections. In 2019, the last full year before the pandemic struck, tourism made up about 12% of Egypt's GDP. After a long period of political instability that dented earnings, revenues from the sector recovered to $13 billion that year.
Away from business, in our health news today, Morocco is looking to scale up COVID-19 vaccinations by going digital. At a vaccination center in Elma, near Casablanca, people only have to scan a QR code using their mobile phone or tablet to get vaccinated. We have more.
Dubbed the Smart Vaccinodrome by local media, the site aims to inoculate between 3,000 to 4,000 people a day. Mohamed Jarel Bachekroun, a delegate of the Ministry of Health in the Nosel province, said it is a project to accelerate the pace of vaccinations, especially after the expansion to recipients over 20 years old. He added that people can track their vaccination process from registration to receipt of their second dose by using a QR code. The center employs intelligent sensors to monitor vaccine cold chains, general supervision and management, and to analyze medical, environmental, and logistical data. Morocco has administered the most vaccine doses of any country in Africa. In mid-June, the kingdom partially reopened its tourism industry.
moving on in our sports news today, Express Football Club progressed to the final of the 2021 Sekafa Kagame Cup. Now, the Red Eagles needed at last minute penalty scored by Eric Kenzo Kambale to win the tense duel 2-1 at Azam Sports Complex in Chamazi. We have more on this report.
KMKM took the lead in the opening half through Ibrahim Abdallah Hamad in the second minute of the added time of the first stanza. 10 minutes into the second half, the reigning Uganda Premier League champions gallantly fought back. Informed midfielder Mzamil Mutiaba replied with a well-carried free kick for the equalizer. Mutiaba's carrying free kick from the edge of 18-yard goal mark was executed past the defensive wall into the roof of the net. This followed a handball by defender Richard John, called by the South Sudan referee Ring Malong. This was Mutiaba's third goal of the tournament before he paved the way for Abel Etrude in the 79th minute. Inside the 4 added minutes, Express earned a penalty for a foul of Martin Chiza. Kambale was confident to shoot home the winner that saw Progress Express to the finals. Like Mutiaba, Kambale has also scored 3 goals in the championship, whose winner would pocket $30,000. Express FC will now face the winner between Azam and Malawi's Nyasa Big Bullets. Katende Chabasinga reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Before we end our bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Kampala flyover construction still on course, says Kajina. IPOD asks Museveni to lift ban on suspension of DGF activities. And Ethiopia urges civilians to join fight against Tigray rebels. And in our sports today, Express H, KMKM in thriller to reach Sekafa Kagame Cup final. Thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.